Are we live? I
Looks
think
like we're
so.
live.
If someone can write in the comments, that would be awesome. If you can hear us and see us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Hello, everyone. Don't be shy and just write to us in the comments if you can hear us and if you can see us. And then, okay. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Katerina. Laura, Claudio, all is good. Perfect. Okay, let's start.
Perfect.
And first of all, I want to welcome you to another retail talk. Today, I have a very special guest with me, live from Germany. We have the CEO of a refive company, Mr. Mitul Jain. Is it Jain?
That's right.
Hi, Mitul.
Hi, Anna. How are you doing?
How are you doing?
Great. Very excited for today's talk.
Me too. Me too. I was just speaking to Mitul, saying that I personally haven't done a retail talk in a really long time, but I love live events. I think they're just very exciting and full of dynamics. So I'm excited to see what today will bring to us. Okay, and today's topic is very, very exciting. It's about electronic receipts and how they can be beneficial to retailers. So, before we begin, I just want to share a few information about today's event and about the organization. We are streaming live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So I just want to tell you that we have had a few problems with LinkedIn recently where the live stream was stopped for some reason. So if that happens, just jump over to YouTube, and I will right now put the link in the comments if this happens so that you can go there. Okay, so that's that. And we are recording this event, so you'll be able to watch it after it ends on YouTube. If you want, you can always leave questions in the chat box at any time and ask questions and offer your insights and opinions on the topic today. Okay, so my name is Ana and I'm a marketing assistant at Fiscal Solutions, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Fiscal Solutions. So Fiscal Solutions is a 20-year-old company operating in the domain of fiscalization, as we offer different fiscal solutions ranging from middleware to consulting services. And we are working with the biggest international retailers and POS software vendors. And we're active in more than 20 countries in Europe and metaverse on top of that. As we're very passionate about all things fiscal, we like to call ourselves fiscal hackers. So if you have any problem or need assistance with some fiscalization issue, you know who to contact. Okay, so before I give the word to my guest, Mitul, I just want to say a few things about today's topic of electronic receipts. So we're witnessing digitalization of the entire world. So it's safe to say that electronic receipts will have a very important role. And right now, e-receipts are mostly used in software-based and combined systems, not so much in hardware because of the limitations of physical devices. When we're talking about countries, electronic receipts are treated differently, but there are lots of them already using e-receipts in some way. So for example, in France, printed receipts will no longer be produced starting from April 2023. Now let's finally move on to my guest, Mitul, and give him the word. Mitul, I already asked you how you were doing today, and I just want to jump right into the topic and start, So tell me, what's the primary activity of Refive, and how did you decide to focus your attention to e-receipts?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that and the great introduction, Anna. So let me start with a quick introduction about Refive and what it is that we do and what we're trying to achieve. So our bigger vision is basically to help retailers, brands build better, stronger relationships with their customers and actually give them a more personal connection with them. But for that to happen, especially in the store, brands need a way to, on the one hand, know who their customers are, understand a bit about their customers, and on the other hand, have a way to communicate with them. Right. And what we discovered is there's, of course, been a lot of approaches to do that in the past, but the digital receipt offers a platform to do that in a much more dynamic way and in a way that doesn't really change the way the stores work today. So basically creating, opening the door to a meaningful interaction between the customer and the retailer by digitizing that last touch point in the store. So you finish a purchase as you normally would, and instead of getting a piece of paper that's a little bit useless, you interact with the brand digitally, and that gives us an opportunity to do a lot more things between the retailer and the customer.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing, and that's why we chose the receipt, because we said it needs to be something that's happening anyways without changing the way the store works. It needs to be something that's useful for the customer, something they actually want to have, and most customers need the receipt for some use or the other. And it needs to be something that's a frictionless interaction in the store versus adding a new layer of complexity like download my app, or carry a loyalty card around with you, or any of these additional steps that customers today have to take when they interact with the brand.
Yeah. Okay. So as I said previously, there is such a rapid implementation of e-receipts, for example, in France. So can you just explain to us what are electronic receipts, digital receipts, smart receipts?
Yes, definitely. So I like that you differentiated between the three. So let's zoom out, right? What is a receipt? At the end of the day, legally speaking, and in most countries, a receipt is basically serving the job of, on the one hand, a proof of purchase for the customer. So the customer now has a document with which they can prove that they bought a product at a store, or a set of products, how much they paid for it, the tax, etc. And on the other hand, increasingly, also because of fiscalization law, it's a proof from the retailer's perspective that the transaction was recorded correctly, and was accounted for from an accounting and taxation purpose. And that's the goal of a receipt. That's the job of a receipt. Now, what historically has already been done with receipts is a lot of retailers will add a coupon on there, or ask for some feedback, or put a survey. So even in the paper form, a receipt has evolved over time into being a little bit more than a legal document, in the form of a legal document plus something with which to interact with the customer.
Yeah.
Um, Now we come to today's day and age where everyone is becoming more environmentally conscious. If you think about the amount of waste that's produced when digital receipts are produced, that's quite a big problem. Environmentally speaking, there's tons of water, paper, and waste produced. And then, of course, you have the problem that a lot of paper receipts still today, even though that's changed in some cases, are coated in bisphenol, which is also a pretty harmful chemical. So, given all of these things, and because of legislative pressure in some countries, like in France, a lot of retailers are switching to electronic receipts. And so, there's sort of an evolution of electronic receipts as well. The first being retailers just said, let's take what we show on the paper receipt, and give that as a PDF to our customers. And the way we can give that to our customers is we ask them for an email at the point of sale, or we sort of ask them to sign up for a program, loyalty program or something. And then whenever they shop with us, they receive this PDF either by email, or inside that app in their account. And that's sort of the first iteration. But if you think about it, it's sort of like a dumb digitization, right? Where you're taking something that's on paper and effectively showing a scanned or a digitized version of it, without taking advantage of the fact that in a digital medium, you can actually make it into an interactive opportunity. And so that's where we go from, let's say, the more traditional electronic or digital receipts to what we like to call at Refive smart receipts. So the way we think of it is, again, in two steps. Step one is that receipt doesn't need to just be a digital representation of the physical receipt. It's actually a live page, an interactive element, where the customer can, of course, see all the legally required information, but also have access to things like personalized offers, information about the products they bought on the one hand, and then on the second hand, actually interact back with that receipt and say, here's some feedback about my purchase today, or great, here's my email, send me this receipt, but also, by the way, sign me up for the loyalty program or for your newsletter, or for send me a link to download the app later on. So the way we look at it is, you can have an electronic receipt that fulfills the job, but you have a much bigger opportunity that you're missing out on if you just produce an electronic receipt that's a digital representation of the physical one, instead of converting it into an interactive smart receipt. And that's what we focus on. We really help retailers who want to, of course, fulfill regulatory requirements, be compliant, issue digital receipts for environmental reasons and for cost reasons and operational reasons. But we help them take it a step further and let them interact with their customers through that. And then the second step that I mentioned is, not only are we helping them interact, we're using that as an opportunity to connect every anonymous in-store customer to their purchase. So we're also helping them collect data about customer behavior and use that to then optimize a lot of the parts of the shopping experience and the customer experience over time, right? So you flashed an image earlier, and I think
Yeah,
it's
I did.
interesting
I'm
to
gonna
talk about
show
that.
it again, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So if you think about it, right, I mentioned earlier, like with electronic receipts in the traditional sense, the way it would work is the cashier would say, okay, great, Anna, thanks for shopping today. If you'd like your receipt, I can send it to you by email. It's environmentally friendly. Just give me your email address. And then, if your name is complicated like my name, they'll start typing in your name, probably make a spelling mistake. Square in the US found that one third of the emails that they collected for sending receipts were actually wrong. And I wouldn't be surprised if that number is even higher in Europe, where you have even more exotic names. So you have a cashier trying to enter an email and then sending you this PDF via email. One of the things that was important for us, and what we also learned from retailers, is that interaction needs to be smooth. So we don't want to have the cashier spending all that time and effort entering an email in, asking the customer for personal information kind of out loud in the public. Because again, maybe I don't want the people behind me in the line and everyone else to know my email address. So we said, how do we make this experience more personalized, more private, let's say, but also smoother, so the cashier doesn't have to do more work? Because what a lot of retailers we work with said is, we can send email receipts, but then our cashiers don't bother with it. They just print out the paper receipt because they have other things to do than enter an email into the system. So the way we do it is, there's a QR code, which also has an NFC enabled device in it, that the customer can either scan or tap with their phone. And when they do this directly in their mobile browser, we show them the receipt, which takes away, again, the need for the customer to share private information if they don't want to. It reduces the effort on the cashier side, and it's just a very smooth and quick experience, right? So instead of standing there for a while at the point of sale, you can just tap or scan and then walk away. You see your receipt in the browser. You can interact with it, as I mentioned earlier. And if you want to keep it for later, you can easily download it as a PDF, enter your email and send it to email, or even claim it via WhatsApp, or even directly into like an Apple or Google Wallet, right? So all those options, as you can also see sort of in the third screen here, are presented to the customer at that point of time. And then the customer can choose how they want to save the receipt, right? So the issuing is done quite seamlessly via QR and NFC. The acceptance is in browser, and the saving can be done through a number of channels, or even the customer has an option to create a small account and store it there. But the main idea is, as a customer, I have the flexibility and the freedom to choose how much or how little information I share. And as a retailer, I don't need to burden my cashiers with extra effort. And that's sort of also the smart element is, um, at the end of the day, retail is all about like optimizing the last minute in the transaction, the last sort of effort in the store. And the more you can free up your store staff to actually interact and build relationships with the customers, the better it is for the business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically, in general, to retailers, what are these benefits? Can you like classify them?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think of what I described right now in terms of the journey, at different steps, we're enabling different things. So one, of course, is data capture.
Yeah.
So the moment the customer scan the QR code or tap the NFC, they're seeing this receipt in their browser, but we also create an anonymous profile for them in that moment and associate that purchase down to the individual line items with that customer. Now, the retailer has then the option to either incentivize or even simply ask the customer for more data, more information, like, hey, could you give us an email address so we can send you the receipt? And while you're giving that, would you opt in to receive more communication from us? Or it can be other data like a quick feedback to the purchase that day, right? So the idea is it becomes a tool to capture data from the customer in a very seamless and easy way. So that's one big benefit. The second one is insight. So once we've captured this data, what we're doing is through our analytics engine, basically giving the retailer a view into what kind of customer base they have, right? How many customers have come for the first time? How many are repeat customers? What kind of products are they buying? Are they buying more on discount or more full price, and so on and so forth? So sort of this very rich view of your in-store customers who historically remain quite anonymous for retailers. And then using that information, the retailer has the opportunity to really show the customer relevant things on the receipt, right? So if the system identifies that, Anna is a customer who really likes organic products, what is shown to the customer on the receipt in terms of the personalized offers, in terms of the information, can be made very specific to that. So there's a high degree of personalization that the retailer can enable through this, which then leads to a much stronger engagement with the brand, right? If you think of customers today, we're all used to shopping online, and the moment you go onto Amazon or Zalando or one of these things, they immediately start showing you things that you care about based on your past purchases, based on your behavior, and that makes the experience much more engaging and builds loyalty and builds trust. And so this receipt is now giving you a way in store to create that personalized engagement, which otherwise is very hard in a store because you don't have so many sort of digital touch points with the customer, and the receipt becomes that window to engage with the customer. And then lastly, there's the idea of adding value for the customer as well. So the way we think of it is the receipt is the last step in a journey, sort of the last step before the next interaction in the customer journey. So not only am I as a customer getting value because I'm getting personalized information, maybe I'm getting a discount related to my behavior, I'm getting information about the products I'm buying, all on that digital receipt. But also I'm getting the chance to sort of interact back with the brand. And the retailer then has the opportunity to, if I've agreed to stay in touch with them, use that information to communicate with me between purchases and incentivize me to come back. So sort of closing that loop and saying, no longer do I leave the store anonymous and you don't know when I'm coming back, you don't know who I am, what I liked. You actually now as a retailer have the ability to say, this was great. Thank you for shopping with us. Here's a reason for you to come back again. And also for me as a customer, when I come back, it's not like I'm visiting you for the first time. I actually feel like, okay, they understand me and they understand my behavior and my interests and are treating me like someone who is a regular customer because, this is the fourth time I've been into the store and it feels more, it feels more connected for me.
That's actually very interesting. But before we move on, we have a question relating to when we showed the first picture and you explained how the solution works. So Claudio asks, where is the QR code shown to the customer on what device?
Yeah, a great question, Claudia. So there's two possibilities here. There's a lot of retailers who already have a second screen or want to keep a second screen in the store. And in that case, we use the second display to display the QR code on there. But what a lot of the customers actually, when I say customers, the retailers actually want to do is keep the store quite minimal. And in that case, we have the option to provide a static QR code. So this QR code is just printed out on a display, like on a plexiglass display or on a stand on a piece of paper that's placed next to the point of sale. And that QR code is unique to the point of sale. So what it does is it always reflects the most recent transaction. And so the customer completes their payment, they scan the QR code, and then they receive their receipt at that point of time.
Perfect. So thank you for answering. And Claudio, thank you for asking. If we don't manage to answer your questions during the talk, we will be sure to read all the comments and see if we can, which questions we can answer once we finish everything. So, even if you don't receive the answer right away, we're going to answer it after. Okay, let's
And we're still
continue.
reachable after for any follow-ups. So
Absolutely, yes. That's always, we're always available for that. Okay, let's continue. That's really interesting about what you said previously about this new customer journey. Can you tell me more about how exactly it works? So let's just start with data capture.
Mhm. So if we go back to the journey, right? The customer has finished paying. They want their receipt now, and then they scan the QR code. That's the first step in the data capture, really. The moment they open the receipt in the browser, we identify them anonymously, and in our analytics engine, a customer profile is created. Now, via the receipt, we're able to collect a lot of different data points, right? So first, we have the receipt in there in the profile. So down to the individual line items. So what products did the customer purchase? What colors? What sizes? What flavors, depending on what the customer is buying. And then, of course, what price they bought it for. Did they use a discount? Did they buy it on sale? Did they buy it full price? So that's in there. And then that's sort of the basis of the profile. And every time the customer comes again, we are able to, using our tracking technology, re-identify them, even if they haven't shared any personal data. So it's anonymous, and enrich that profile. Because at the end of the day, for most retailers, it's not super important to know that my name is Mitul, but it's important to understand which customer segment I belong to, what my behavior is, and how that should influence their decisions in terms of what products they keep in the store, what prices to offer them at, and how to actually give me an incentive to come back. So step one, you have the anonymous profile. Step two, as I mentioned, the receipt is an interactive interface to the customer. So the customer has the option to share contact details, sign up for a loyalty program or a newsletter, provide feedback to their purchase experience. And all of that data is also then collected, added to the profile, and enriched. And then lastly, what we're also doing is we're collecting any interaction. So if the customer clicked on an offer, if they, went from the receipt to like a web page and started browsing there, we're sort of tracking all that behavior. And once all that data is collected into the profile, what's constantly running in the background is sort of an AI algorithm that's predicting different things about the customer behavior, right? So if we know, okay, Anna came in today, she bought these products, she left a good rating, she's come in for the third time now, and from her behavior and her basket size, etc., we know that she belongs to the segment of high value, frequent purchasers who buy full price
That's
products, right?
me.
um, and so accordingly, we can help the retailer show you products that you would care about instead of, something
Yeah.
that you're not interested in. So that's the data capture. It's
Mm-hmm.
if you think in the data world, it's zero party data because it's really data that the customer is choosing to share. It's first party data. It's stuff we're observing them through their interactions, and then combining that all together with sort of other layers of predicted and
Mm-hmm.
enriched data. And that's the data capture.
So basically, retailers now have all this new data on their customers, and they can analyze it to get like very, very deep and meaningful insights, right?
Absolutely. So
Mm,
again, if you think about the store of the past, I could be going to the same store, and it's actually true. There's a Uniqlo like a 10-minute walk from me that I basically do the majority of my shopping at, and I'm probably there once a quarter. But they don't have any clue that I'm such a loyal customer. I don't really get any personalized recommendations or anything from them. If
yeah.
anything, like their newsletter is usually full of stuff that I'm not interested in when they send it to me. And it's a pity because they have all this data about me and they could use it. But it's because they're not able to capture when I walk into the store that it's actually me coming in, right? And so that's a big gap at the moment in retail that we're
Mm,
trying to fix.
yeah. Okay. Just a second, please.
Mhm.
Okay, so how can retailers leverage that deep understanding that they have of their customers?
So a few different ways. If you think of the whole value chain of retail, understanding who the customers are can really help improve it from all the way from the production through to the actual retailing, right? So what you're seeing here is what I was describing earlier, sort of the customer profile
Mm-hmm,
view, where we've summarized all this data about the customer behavior, and make it available in a way that's digestible for the retailer through a dashboard. But most of the retailers we work with will also take this insight and embed it into other systems. So if you start from the top, if you're making decisions around your next season's products, or usually you're planning a year in advance if you think of fashion, you're using those customer segments to understand what are these customer segments, what kind of products have they been buying, and using that to predict better what to actually stock in the future, right? So if you're seeing that there's a certain segment of customers that tends to purchase items that tend to run out of stock really fast. What
mm-hmm,
can we do to serve that segment better? Like, can we inform them earlier about those products being launched and so on and so forth? So it starts with sort of the decisioning around which products to stock. Then, if you look at these customers on a store level, you'll see that you have a very different, let's say, basket or cohort of customers visiting each store. Understanding that better can be used to then also decide what products should be stocked in the store. And then again, based on customer behavior in terms of like, okay, if in the store in Berlin I'm seeing mostly customers spending heavier in sale time, can I adjust pricing in that store
mm-hmm.
to actually serve the customers there better, so they're not only coming to me in the sale time, but they're actually coming more throughout the year and actually giving me that revenue growth throughout the year. So pricing decisions, discounting decisions, supply chain, how much of what should I keep in what store based on who's actually shopping there regularly. And then lastly, and this is sort of where a lot of what we focus on is on the engagement and retention part. So the more I understand about you as a customer, the better I'm able to personalize the communication I do with you, and target you better, either directly one to one, but also if you think of it from a retargeting perspective, using sort of online campaigns and things like that to understand, okay, these are the customers that are high value customers that I would want to acquire more of to my store. Where do I find these types of customers based on their behavior profile, and target them better through campaigns. So really, from the supply chain end, the operational end of the business, all the way through to the marketing, CRM, retention side of the business, understanding who the customers are better can help make much better decisions, which then on the one hand improve revenue growth, but also, and that's the most critical thing in today's market, actually help retailers be more profitable.
Yeah, and what about, the engaging customers post purchase? Like once they do purchase, and, how to keep them coming after.
So, well, one of the things, let's again break it down into sort of three layers, right? So, the most basic is when the customer opens a receipt, we're able to retarget them online
Mhm.
much easier, because we sort of identify them, and we're able to give that information to the retailer to actually use that for retargeting campaigns, which means you bought today at Zara. They identified that you were in the store, and then they can use that information in their Facebook campaigns, in their Google ads, to then retarget you the next time they have, a product that you're interested in, or when they launch their next season, and so on and so forth. So that's sort of the anonymous layer. Here, we're not doing one-to-one communication, but by having a digital connection with the customer and triggering the right interactions with the ad networks, we can basically help the merchant retarget their customers a lot better. The
Mm-hmm.
second step is then the one-to-one communication. And there you have the more classic ones. So the customer provides their email and signs up for a newsletter when they're claiming the receipt. So now you have them in your database, and just as you target everyone else from your newsletter, they can be contacted regularly and informed about new collections, events at the stores, so on and so forth. But
Mm-hmm.
where it gets even more interesting then is what we do is, because we are plugged into WhatsApp, the wallet pass, and so on and so forth, retailers can actually directly through our platform then communicate one-to-one with those customers, right? So if you have the wallet pass, even though you've not provided an email or any sort of other information, you can send your customers a push notification or even geo-target them, right? So the next time they walk past your store, their wallet pass just pops up and says, hey,
Let's
welcome
spend
back.
some money.
Let's spend some money. So that's sort of those are sort of the layers of interaction that we then enable. And in the end, it's down to the retailer. There's some retailers that have a very sophisticated CRM setup in
Mm-hmm.
place already, and they can
Yeah,
leverage that.
yeah.
But many retailers, especially those who have not been, let's say, very heavily e-com focused and very store focused, lack that tooling today. And so, in a very simple way, they can actually execute those campaigns then directly through our platform as well, right? So through the receipt, I got the customer. In the platform, I understood their behavior, and then now, if you go back to that loop, I can actually trigger them with something that's relevant to them, not just what I would send to everyone, and give them an exciting reason to come back into the store or online.
Yeah, that's great. So we talked about some very, very strong benefits for retailers, but what are the benefits for customers?
Yeah, and this is a question that a lot of people in our circle ask us is like, great, you're helping the retailers a lot, but why would I do this? And then we
Yeah.
say, well, go try it in a store and you'll understand. But to sum it up, I think it comes down to, again, three things. One is the ease of it all. If I think of the number of times I've lost a receipt that I actually needed for something useful, it is a lot of times. And this has to do with the fact that paper receipts, they just get torn, lost, faded. And of course, you can argue that, well, just a PDF would do the job of that. But as I mentioned earlier, just getting a PDF via email, you kind of have some of the same problems where, that receipt itself is not super useful beyond just being a proof of purchase. So customers want to have that information and they want to be able to access it easily again. um, a lot of customers do care about getting sort of personalized offers and recommendations that are relevant to them. So that's an opportunity for them to like feel engaged, feel like, okay, here's something that's relevant to me. Thirdly, if you think of the general use cases of digital receipts, there's things like warranties and guarantees. So as a customer, if I ever want to bring a product back even a year later, if there was a guarantee issue, I'm much more likely to find it in my inbox or in my wallet pass or in my WhatsApp than I am to in my physical wallet as a piece of paper. There's the tax use case. A lot of the times you need your receipts to file taxes, to claim expenses from your company, and so on and so forth. So, as a customer, there's a lot of reasons to take a digital receipt. But as I mentioned, a lot of customers still avoid it because they don't want the friction of providing an email at the point of sale and things like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
we make that even nicer for the customer, because as a customer now, all you have to do is tap or scan and you have your receipt. If you don't want to provide any information, you just download it as a PDF and store it in your phone, or even just take a screenshot. But now you have it forever without having had to do any much more effort, like signing up for an app or a loyalty program, or registering into some account or things like that.
Yeah, I think it's very important to have this perspective also of the customers. I mean, I think it's important for retailers, to have like both perspectives on why they should do it, and of course to see what kind of impact that would have when working with, e-receipts.
And so it's interesting you mentioned that about the retailers wanting to see that impact, and that's very valid, right? So
Mhm.
retailers also obviously very mindful of, are we doing something that's good for us, but alienating the customer in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of retailers who've switched to refive have found is that the acceptance rate goes up significantly. So one of the fashion retailers we work with, when they were just providing email receipts, they were seeing a conversion rate of 1 to 2%. And now in most stores, more than 50 to 60% of their customers are taking digital receipts.
Mm-hmm.
They're also delighted, and that's one reason that I didn't mention earlier, is because they also feel like they're doing their little bit for the environment. So also consumers care more about that nowadays. They don't want to
Mm-hmm.
take plastic bags, they don't want to take paper receipts, and that helps them also feel more connected to the retailer, because there's an alignment of values over there.
Yeah, obviously, sustainability is a big trend today. I hope it's not just a passing trend, but also the one to stay. Okay, let's go back to retailers and just can you share some advice on how can retailers make the most out of e-receipts?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing to keep in mind is, depending on the kind of retailer you are, there's different considerations to take into account, right? So if you're in a supermarket kind of setting, speed at the point of sale is very important. Security is obviously important. The pricing information of your products is something that's very proprietary information, because you're selling commodity products. If you're a higher end brand, the quality of that interaction matters, as the customer feels special and engaged in some way. So depending on the kind of context and the kind of business you're running, I think the first step is to really figure out, what are we trying to achieve? Are we a supermarket where we're trying to just reduce the operational cost and overhead of producing all that paper receipt and the trash and so on and so forth? Are we a higher end brand that's looking to build relationships with customers? Are we a retailer that has a data agenda, and we're looking to capture more data, and we see the receipts as a means to that end? So step one, it's really about figuring out, what is it that you want to achieve. A lot of retailers think, okay, let's do digital receipts, and they go the PDF route and miss out on a massive opportunity for a long time. So I think, as a retailer, what I would do today is first figure out, what do I want to achieve, what options exist on the market, and which of them really fit into my goals as a business at the moment. And also think beyond just the goals in terms of, I want to switch to digital receipts, but in terms of, what is my bigger agenda at the moment. So it's 2023. There's a tough economic environment right now. What can I do in this decision that goes beyond saving me money? How do I convert it into an opportunity to grow my business, and use better engagement, better customer data, etc., to do that? So that's step one: figure out why you want to do it, what you want to achieve. And then two, I would say, think about it in the scope of the bigger strategy as a whole. And then three
Mm-hmm.
is really evaluate different solutions, right? So a lot of retailers think about this as like, okay, I just need to pick something, go with it, and then it should be fine. I'm just trying to offer a digital receipt. But we've had retailers change from other solutions to us, because you can have issues like, reliability of the platform. You can have issues like, the customer engagement and experience is not that compelling for the customer. So they're spending a lot for this system, but the customers are still like, no, just give me a paper receipt. So evaluating that is really important. And also, there's aspects, some retailers will want to do this in-house, which on the one hand makes sense, because they're trying to keep things within their ecosystem. But on the other hand, and this is something you guys are experts on, regulation is changing so fast and all the time, that there's value in having an expert, an external vendor who really is on
Mm-hmm.
top of this, do this. So
Yeah.
if I think of our solution, we already support more than 30 countries. So, we are on top of how the receipt regulations are changing in those countries, what needs to change on the format of the receipt, how does the customer need to perceive that, and so on and so forth, and making that possible, which is much harder to do with an in-house solution, right? Same thing if you're a retailer who sees a lot of international traffic. Uh, with our solution, if the customer's device is in Chinese, or in Serbian or in French, they're going to see that receipt in their language. And that again comes down to those smaller things in the customer experience that matter a lot, which may not matter if you're a convenience store, but matter a lot if you're a high-end premium fashion brand, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are those goals? Evaluate solutions. And then, lastly, what we also recommend and we always offer to retailers is to really pilot it. Again, to make sure that it works within their store setup, their store staff understand it well, their customers are interacting well with it, and then it gives them an opportunity to tweak something if it's not working. So we're always of the opinion that rather than just rolling something out to 200 stores, start small, try it in 3 or 4 different stores, see what works, learn, and then expand from there.
Is this the part where we talk about retailers and how to get started?
I guess so. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If I think
Mhm.
of what a retailer needs to do to get started with Refive, at least, is we're pretty agnostic to the point of sale retailers use. So we have integrations with a number of the leading point of sale solutions out there. We work with partners like yourselves with Fiscal Solution, where we're directly embedded into the fiscal middleware. So through that, we can already access all the receipt data. But also we have technical solutions with which we can pretty much plug and play with most point of sale solutions that are out there without a huge integration project going into it. So as a retailer, it's really 3 steps to start. One, figure out what you want to achieve. Uh, we're always happy to do a quick session to discuss those goals and see what the right approach to take to that would be in terms of the strategy data wise, in terms of the strategy in store, and in terms also of the strategy of how do you communicate all this to your customers. Because what also happens with a lot of retailers is they start issuing digital receipts, but they haven't really found a moment to communicate to that customers that this is now a
Mhm.
possibility. So you have customers coming into the store not knowing it and obviously not consuming it. So figuring out those steps, and then, like I said, we can, through our different approaches, get a pilot up and running pretty much in a day or two, and help retailers test that in stores of different formats, different locations with different behavior, and then from there they can decide if they want to scale this out across their entire landscape.
Okay, and I think it's very important to also mention, data security, because we're talking a lot about data and customer, very like deep insight into the data of the customer. So I think it's very important because not everyone is comfortable with sharing so much data about them. So are there any considerations regarding data security?
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
this again comes back to that difference between how are we issuing the receipt to the customer. So if you again think of traditional receipts where you kind of force the customer to share an email address with you, what you're doing is you're automatically making every receipt into a piece of personally identifiable information, right? So as a
Mhm.
customer, what you're doing is you're already making yourself a bit transparent. The approach we take is in line with GDPR, and we put a lot of effort into making sure that that stays in line, because on the one hand, we're not forcing the customer to share any personal information. So you can always take the digital receipt and choose to remain completely anonymous. And
Mhm.
your profile is also anonymous. So it's no different from, when you're browsing a website and, you're clicking through pages, and the website owner knows that you visited these pages, but they don't know that you're Ana and that you're born on this and this date and that you live at this address and so on and so forth. So there's no personally identifiable information being collected in those profiles in the first step. But again, still, those profiles are super valuable because they're helping the retailer understand customer behavior, right? Uh, there's the second layer, which is the consented profile, where we're asking the customer on that receipt, would you be okay for communication? Would you be okay to share more information with the retailer? And in that case, they're providing an active opt in, which we then reconfirm with a second opt in. So at that point of time, again, we remain compliant with GDPR because the customer is saying, I'm okay with this, I accept it, and I want it. And at the end of the day, the customer is only doing that because it's valuable to them. Right. So what we also see, and that's the interesting thing, is a customer will come into the store once, twice, and they'll not share their information. But because we are, using the anonymous profile to personalize what they see over those visits, the third time they're like, man, this is so relevant to me, or they're seeing an offer that makes them want to share their information, and that's the point they're sharing it. So we're
Yeah.
really changing the equation from the way it used to be in the past, where it's like, sign up for my loyalty program, tell me your name, your date of birth, your address, your grandmother's name, your neighbor's dog's name, and then maybe I'll give you a few points and you can get like I don't know, a pan in 6 months or something from your points. Instead, we change it and say, the retailer is consistently giving value to the customer, personalized and relevant. And only when the customer feels like this is so worth it for me, I would like to receive more, are they choosing to share more information and their consent to be communicated with. And that's how the whole thing works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems pretty, simple and straightforward. With this, we have come to the end of our retail talk. For the end, I would like to ask all of you if you have any questions that we can answer right now. Now that you've listened to all of the benefits and how it's GDPR compliant, I think we had one question related to your solution. So Christina asked, can you identify users only if they use only the same smartphone?
Mm-hmm. So the answer is yes and no. If they remain completely anonymous, then yes, we depend on them using the same device. The moment they share any sort of contact details, whether that's their phone number when they claim the receipt to WhatsApp, or their email address when they claim the receipt to email, then we can use that to re-identify them across multiple visits. So the next time they use the same email, even if it's a different device, or the same phone number, even if it's a different device, we can associate that new purchase to the same profile. And that's how we can basically identify them across visits. And also we have plugins that plug into the ecom channel, and we can use that to also then cross-identify them with any online purchases of the customer.
Thank you for your answer. Do you have anything else to add besides my questions today? Or do you think we covered everything?
I think that was pretty comprehensive, actually. Those were really good questions, Anna. Thank you.
Thank
I think
you.
if there's more from the audience, we still have some time to take them, so happy to do that.
Of course, yeah, you can always comment and ask questions in the comment section. Thank you all for listening and engaging. For these couple of minutes until the end of the retail talk, of course, you can ask questions. I just want to say that we are both going to Euroshop. Yeah, we're gonna be in. Is it Düsseldorf?
It's Düsseldorf, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna be in Düsseldorf in Germany in 1 week. I mean, in 5 days, I think.
In
So
5 days, yeah.
yeah, we will see you there. And of course, you can type in the comments if you will also be there. And we can, of course, meet and chat. Okay, and of course, if you have any questions at all, be free to write to us at marketing@fiscalsolutions.com. Mitul, you can also, write your email as well in the comments if you can. For more information about all fiscal topics, you can always go to our fiscal portal where you will find everything. I mean, everything, every detailed information about fiscal systems, news, alerts, everything on our fiscal portal. The website is here. It's fiscalrequirements.com. I will share, of course, Mitul's email as well in the comments. Here it is. Okay, Christina has another question. So, is this solution applicable in every country in Europe, or are there some exceptions?
Yeah, also a very good question. So there are certain countries in Europe which at the moment explicitly, let's say, ban or not make it possible to issue digital receipts. Italy is one of them. Hungary is another one. Poland is a little bit in the gray zone as well. But a lot of these countries are also changing regulations in the coming months and years. And what we found with retailers who are active in those countries is there are still customers who appreciate having an option to take it digitally, even though they still need to be then issued the paper receipt in order to be fully compliant. So in those cases, they're issued a digital receipt as an option on top. We cannot replace the paper receipt completely in those countries, But in the majority of European countries, it is now legally possible to issue digital receipts instead of paper receipts. And in some countries like France, it's even encouraged. In Germany, it's fully legal. So yeah, most of the Nordics, UK, etc., there's no issue at all with digital receipts.
Great, thank you. Here is Mitul's email address.
And maybe one thing to also add, because we spoke a lot about like engagement and data capture and so on and so forth. It's also possible to just get started with this in a simple way, right? Just start with digital receipts, expand out from there, and do more with your customers over time, depending on what makes the most sense. And also on the other side, and I'll be doing a bit of a talk about this at Euroshop, where we'll be talking also about other touch points in store other than the digital receipt, through which retailers can personalize the experience and engage with their customers. So through Refive, beyond the digital receipt, we also have a suite of thoughtful touch points, that we like to call them, that retailers can use to engage digitally with customers in store and also collect more customer data. So
Yeah, I
start
think
where you are on that journey.
absolutely. I think this year's Euroshop is going to be very, very exciting because we have all of these new things coming and new emerging trends in retail, which are happening, and you need to jump on that train. Nicolina is sharing, she's our legal consultant at Fiscal Solutions, and she's also sharing her insights as well about the use of e-receipts in European countries. Yeah. So in Poland and Lithuania, it's going to be possible as well. Okay, so I just want to thank you for being my guest today. I think you made some really great points and offered really detailed and thorough explanations and very useful advice about how to get started with electronic receipts. I'm very excited to hold more live events with you, or pre-recorded, because this topic is very trending right now. It's very useful to know all the intricate. Okay, it's time to end the event to learn all the details about e-receipts. Okay, so to repeat once again, see you at Euroshop in 5 days for more information on fiscalization in more than 20 European countries, plus Metaverse. Be sure to visit our fiscal portal. If you have any additional questions, you can always write to us at marketing@fiscalsolutions.com, or you can write to Mitul as well.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anna. This was great.
Yes. Okay.
Have a nice
So
afternoon.
if you guys don't have any additional questions, we will end here, and you can always go check out the recording of this event. It's going to be available on YouTube. Okay. See you again soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.